Hey guys, so today we're just going to carry on with the script that we made in the previous video, which was the quick mining. So we're up to the stage where we can mine and drop and mine and drop. And then, so what we're going to do first is we're going to add banking functionality. So the first thing we need to do is walk to the bank, of course. Now, before we make our walking class, it's important to note that we already know that we are going to bank at Lumbridge Castle, and we therefore know that we need to go up 2 flights of stairs, and I believe there's a potential door that might be closed. So in order to walk there, we need to either hard code our walking and say, if we're in a certain area, then we need to click the door. If we're in this certain area, then we need to click the stairs. If we're in this certain area, we need to click the stairs again. And that's just a huge mess. You really don't want to get into doing that. So something I wrote quite a while ago is this class here. Now, this will be in the description, and you'll see this topic here, and you just click here to get the code. It shows you how to use it down here. So all you want to do is you want to head over to this here, and you'll see a walker class, and all we're going to do is copy this entire thing. So copy, head back to your project, right click the old school RuneScape package, new Java class, and then we're going to call it walker. And all we have to do is delete everything except the package declaration, because that's very important that we keep that, or else you'll get errors. And then just paste everything you just copied. Now I'm not going to go through this code because there's too much and it's not going to really help you if I go through it. If you do want to get into making useful stuff like this to help you make better scripts, if that makes sense, like if you want to actually make tools to aid you in scripts like a walk-in class like this, then I suggest you read through this, because I did comment as much as possible when I made it, just so it's clear what it's doing and to help people learn. So all you want to do is save that and then close it. We can just forget about that. So what we're going to need to do next is we need a task that says walk from here to somewhere. So as normal, right click tasks, new Java class, and we're just going to call it walk. And then of course we need to extend our task like that, and then we just need to implement the methods, which is Alt and Enter as usual, and then we have to add the constructor as well. So now, when do we want to walk? So we want to walk when our inventory is full. So ctx.inventory.select, don't forget the select, .count is greater than 27. So if our inventory is full, then we're going to walk. But at the moment we don't really know where we need to walk, so we're going to have to make a path from here to Lumbridge Castle Bank. So all we have to do is, if you head over to powerby.org and go to the scripts page, just click on the old school RuneScape tab, type in path, and then you'll see an old school RuneScape path generator. This just makes it simple for us, so just add that. And what this does is, one second, someone's at the door. Okay, sorry about that. So all this script stops us from doing is having to do it manually. So if we're doing it manually, then we would have to go view player. Actually no, we wouldn't. We'd have to go view location, and then we'd have to note that down, walk, note the next one down, walk, note the next one down, and that's just kind of takes way too long. So you just want to stand sort of in the middle, where at a point where you can reach all the rocks just by one click rather than having to walk. So if we were stood here and we wanted to mine over there, that's probably too far away, so we should start closer. So all we have to do now is script play and then run that path generator script. So did I add it? Script play path generator. So just want to play that, and then here just type 4. This is just the distance between the tiles, and 4 is a pretty safe option. So input allow, and then you just want to walk to the bank or run. So as I say, this walker class that I introduced, it just stops you from having to code opening doors and stuff manually. You can create almost any path very easily. I tested it from Falador, going through the mine and stuff like that, and it works fine there. So I'm very pleased about that, and it should help you guys create some scripts easier than what you would be able to if you didn't have this walker. So once we get to the bank, you see now the last tile is there, which is probably okay, but I'm just going to walk one tile further so we do have one right next to the bank for safety. And then all we have to do now is, if you open the IDE, when you press stop, you'll see it outputs here. So we're just going to copy this entire path that it's just given us, and we're going to paste it to the top of our walking class, or walk task class. And then you'll see we need to import tile, so let's just press Alt and Enter, and then import the generic tile, not the RT4 or not the RT6 one. And then I'm also just going to change that to over here, because that's what I do. So now we've got a path to walk, and so this will activate if our inventory is full and we need to walk to the bank. However, let's say we're at the bank like this. We just banked. Actually, no, we've just banked, so our inventory is empty, and now we need to walk back. So let's actually make this class, this task, walk back as well. So we need to add OR, and then we're going to say if our inventory isn't full. So isn't full, but in itself this basically is just always going to be true. So what we need to do, we also need to say if our inventory isn't full and if we're not at the rocks. So we know that our path started at the rocks, so we can just say ctx.movement. I'm not sure. Yeah, destination. No, actually not destination. That won't help. Actually no, that's kind of useless for us. If we do, let's rename this path to bank so we know what this is. And then we're going to say if path to bank 0. So what this means is path to bank is an array of tiles, and it's 0 based indexing. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So path to bank 0 is just pointing to this very first tile, and we know that first tile is at the rocks. So we're going to say if the first tile dot distance to, so that's how far away is it from us, so ctx.players.local. So if the distance to us is let's say greater than 6. So if our inventory is full or it's not full and we're not at the rocks. I'm just also going to put this in brackets so it knows that these two are together. They're one condition and this is one condition. It's not 3 separate. So now it'll activate if we need to walk back and also if we need to walk to the bank. So all we're going to do now is, if we take a look again at our walking class topic, it'll give us some usage examples. So first of all, we need to declare it. We need to initialize it like this. Again, this just goes at the top because we only want to initialize it once. So press Alt and Enter to import your walker class. Head back and you'll see here that it actually gives us a nice little usage example. So just paste this into the execute, and what it's basically saying is change this path to bank, by the way, because that's our path. So all this is saying is if we're not already walking, or if we have no destination. So the destination is this little flag on the map. So if we're not walking or we have no destination, or if our destination is very close to us. So that just makes it a bit more efficient. So it says, say we're walking over here when we get close to it, rather than waiting until you actually get to it to click the next tile, it would click it as it approaches this tile here. So it just speeds things up. So in itself that's fine, but then you have this walk path to bank. Now we don't really want to have this because we also want to walk from the bank to the mine. So we're just going to add here, if ctx.inventory.count select.count is greater than 27, then we actually want to go to the bank. So we're just gonna, that's when we want to walk to the bank. Else, this is when, so if our inventory is full, walk to the bank. And then this else basically says if the inventory isn't full, then we want to walker dot, and then you'll see there's some useful methods here. So we can do walker dot walk path reverse. So we don't need to have two different paths. So path to bank. So that's just going to walk to the bank, and then this will walk the reverse path of that, which will not be to the bank, it'll be from the bank. And that's all very easy, I guess. So what we should see now if we start the script is it'll walk from the bank to the mine, but remember we do have to add this task to our thingy. So we're going to take away our drop class because that's kind of pointless now, and then we're going to say task list dot add new walk ctx. So all this is saying now is we took away our drop, so it's no longer going to drop anything, but we do have a walk-in class. While we're here, I'm actually going to do the banking class task, just so we don't have to run to the mine and back again. So all this is now we're at the bank. So let's make file new Java class bank. Now this is inside the tasks, so this is our banking task. As usual, we need to extend our task, and then we need to implement the method and the constructor, just like that. So very easy. So our activate for this is going to be if our inventory is full. So return ctx.inventory.select, don't know why that happened, select.count is greater than 27. So if our inventory is full, then we need to bank, but also we need to make sure we're at the bank. So RSBot actually has some very cool methods for this. So we can actually just say ctx.bank, and then if you look here, we can open it, we can check if it's opened, we can deposit stuff, we can check that there's one in the viewport, and we can also click this here, which is nearest. So we can actually just find the nearest bank without using IDs or anything like that. We can just say ctx.bank.nearest, and then let's get the location of that, and then let's say distance to, and we're going to get the distance to ctx.players.local. So that's how far away from us is the nearest bank, and then we're going to say if it's very close to us, so less than 6. So if inventory is full and we're very close to a bank, then this is going to execute. So what do we want to do here? We want to, first of all, we're going to check if the bank is opened. So we can do ctx.bank.opened. So if the bank is opened, else we probably want to open the bank. So ctx.bank.open. So if the bank is open, else open it. And then we also probably want, so if the bank is open, then we want to do ctx.bank.deposit, and then we want to deposit our copper ore, but because this is a basic mining script, we're just going to do deposit inventory. So that'll just deposit everything in our inventory using this button here. I'm going to withdraw this so I can show you an example in a second. So so that's our basic banking class. However, there is a few things we should add to make it a little bit better and more safe. So we're going to say, so here, it will get to here. At worst case, it'll be when the bank is 5 tiles away. So say that's the bank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could be here, and then our camera could be like that. So you see we can't see it, and it's gonna, at the moment, that'll try and click it anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if ctx.bank .in viewport, so if the bank is in the viewport, then we're going to open it. Else we want to get it into the viewport. So the viewport is basically this window here. So at the moment it's not in the viewport. If we turn the camera, then it is in the viewport. So we want to turn the camera to the bank. Now how do we do that? We can do ctx.camera and then we can see there's a bunch of methods which are useful, but you can see here turn to. So we can turn to ctx.bank.nearest. So turn to the nearest bank. And all that'll do is, if you were here, then it would go like that, and the bank would then be usable. And then again, to make this a bit safer, at the moment, if the bank's in the viewport, then it's gonna probably go like this, just spam clicking it. So we know that from previous videos we can just use some kind of sleep. Now it's important to know that this has a return value. It's either true or false. So say we want to use the bank, and say there was a bunch of people there like that, and RSBot couldn't find this bank method, then it would say, it would look for a little bit and then it just return false. So what we want to do is we want to say if this has returned true, which means it has clicked bank or open or bank, bank. So if it has clicked bank, then now we want to sleep. There's no point sleeping if we have failed. So we're just going to do our condition.wait as usual. Just like that, and then we just have to import this stuff and then implement its method. So remember, this needs to return true when we want to break out of the sleep. So if we click the bank, we want to sleep until the bank is open. So we want to break out of this when the bank is open. So we're just going to return ctx.bank.opened, and opened means the bank is opened, obviously, and .open means actually open it. So, and then as we know, we can also add a couple of things here to suggest how long it waits. Now we're going to wait, how long should we wait? We're going to wait 5 seconds, because I suppose we could be over there and we could be lagging a little bit. So I'm just going to do every 250 milliseconds it's going to check, and it's going to check a total of 20 times. So that will open the bank successfully, and then up here we can do the same. So you know up here that this will return either true or false depending on whether it managed to click that button. So we're going to say if ctx.bank.deposit inventory. So if we've clicked that button, then we want to sleep. We don't want to sleep before. Now this one isn't so important because it's not exactly the end of the world if you spam click, but it does look a bit stupid, and some could argue that it might be a bit more detectable as a bot. So we're just going to sleep here. We're just going to copy this, but instead of checking this, we're going to check that our inventory count has changed. So this is similar to stuff we've done already, so we're just going to say final int invent count, so how many items are in our inventory. ctx.inventory.select.count, and then we're going to return when that's changed. So return ctx.inventory.select.count doesn't equal the previous count that we just did. So when we're going to return true when our inventory count has changed, and that's our banking class done. So it'll open the bank, it'll use the bank, and then we've also got a walking class which will walk back. So that's all good. I believe that's finished. And then all we have to do now is go into our mining class, get rid of this task. I'm not sure if we just did this, or if that was from a previous video attempt, but you might see this. So if you want to comment out that drop, and then you want to go task list dot add new walk. So you want to add our walking class, and that's going to have priority over the mine. But you also want the banking to have priority over walking, because if you're already at the bank, then there's no point checking if you need to walk, basically. So we're going to add our banking above this, which gives it priority. So task list dot add new bank CTX as normal. So that effectively should give you a mining script which can bank and mine. So I'm going to compile this and I'm going to run it. Now what you should see is it will open the bank, it'll deposit this, and then it'll walk to the mine, and then it'll give you a full inventory, and then it'll walk back. So I'm just going to run this. So play, quick mining, play. Let's see what it does. So it's opened the bank, it's deposited the inventory, and now it's starting to work. Now I'm just going to pause this for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to withdraw 27 of these, so our inventory isn't full. So what we should see now is it'll walk back to the mine 1, the inventory will be full, and then it'll walk back. I'm going to let this just play to show you it works, and show you it handles the stairs and stuff like that. And then in the video I will speed that up for you. I just want to make sure you actually see that it's working. So I'm going to shut up for a couple of minutes and let you watch this. Okay, so as you can see, we've made it back to the bank. We just successfully banked, and now we're walking back to the mine. I'm just going to let that play for a little bit, just to make sure there's no errors that we can sort of fix. Now, while we do that, at the moment we can only bank because we've took out this drop task. Now, if we did want to perhaps let the user select whether they want to bank or mine, we can do this very easy. Now, you'll see a lot of scripts, they use like complicated looking GUIs. Now, what we're going to do, we're just going to use something that's built into Java. I believe it's Swing. I could be wrong. But we're just going to use a JOptionPane dialog box. So to do this, all we need to do is go to our start method, and first of all, we're going to need some options for the user to choose. So string user options, and it's going to be an array because this is all the options they could possibly choose, equals, it's an array like that. So now the options for them are going to be, they can either bank or they can power mine. So they're the two options for our user. So now we need a way for them to choose one. So again, we're going to do string user choice equals, and then we're going to use our option pane here, JOptionPane dot show input dialog. Let's import that. So the first option is going to be null. I believe that is the sort of the window to attach to. If you supply null, then it will just apply to the default one, which in this case is RSBot. So null, then I believe this is the text for the user, like the actual prompt on the screen. So bank or power mine. And then this will be the title of the dialog box, so we're just going to call it quick mining. Yeah, that'll be it. And then this next one is the type. So this won't make much sense, I suppose, but it's really useless. We can just supply J option pane, and then you'll see we've got options here. So we've got OK option. That's kind of useless. We're looking for like a type, so in fact it's not even there, there's quite a lot I believe. So J option pane dot, here you go, so information message, error message, plain message. Let's use plain message, I suppose, see what happens. This you just put null, and now we need to supply our options. So this first parameter that we're going to type here is all the options, so the array. So user options, so that's all the options, and then finally we need the default option. Now here I believe you can supply a string, so you can supply any string there, and you can supply, since we've already got our options here, we're just going to do user options 1, because that will make the default option power mine. Now another thing we need to do, because at the moment this is returning an object rather than a string, so all we have to do is cast it, which is like that. Now what that'll do is it'll try and convert whatever this is, whatever this returns, it'll try and convert to this. So here we can type int, it can't be casted out, but it can be cast to a string, so we can just type string like that. If we type in, it would try to cast it to an int, but obviously it knows already that it can't do that. So we're just going to type string. And then another thing we're going to do is just type some empty things there, plus that. Now that what this is going to do is if the user presses the X button and closes the window, then it will basically just be that. So it's not going to be null, is the important thing. So it's never going to get a null pointer error because of this. So now the user has selected an option, but how do we use that option to affect what the script does? Now, so it's very easy, because of our task framework, we know that if they want to drop, we just uncomment this and comment these two out. So effectively all we need is an if statement. So we can say if user choice dot equals something. So if user choice equals bank, then we want these two tasks, don't we? So let's copy those two and add those instead. Else if user choice dot equals power mine. Make sure this is the case, same case by the way, so capital B, capital B, capital P, capital P. So if they've chosen power mine, then we want to add drop instead. So that's all we need to do there. Now what we're also going to do is just type else. So if they haven't selected either of those, because there's no other options, they've either done something stupid or they've closed the window. So we can just stop the script by using ctx.controller.stop. And that's basically it for that. So yeah, so that's I believe that's it. That's all you need to know for that. So I'm just going to compile that and run it here. So let's stop that. We can see that it's compiled successfully. I'm just going to run it and go quick mining. So you see, yeah. So that option here, plain message, just means that there's basically no icon. If you put error there, you'd see like a red cross or something. If you put information message, you'd see probably one of them help symbols like a question mark. So we're going to bank, so we're going to make sure that works. So I'm going to let that run in the background while I just talk a little for a second. What we're going to do next is work on our paint. Now, the thing about paint is there is a tool called Enfilades Easel, which I will try and link in the description and in the topic. And basically, Enfilades Easel basically allows you to create paints by like clicking and dragging to make rectangles and stuff like that, and then you can copy and paste the code. And I suggest you do use that because it's super easy to create paints that are very effective. Just gonna turn run on. That look super cool and are very effective and stuff like that. So I would recommend that. But if you do want to do it yourself, then all you have to do is implement here. So go to the top of your class after polling script has been extended, type implements, and then I believe it's paint listener. I believe that's it. So then you press Alt and Enter, implement the methods. Yeah, so you'll see repaint. So this is basically going to loop constantly, and every time, because basically how it works is this is getting painted, everything is getting drawn to the screen super rapidly. Like, it's not a still image with moving parts. Everything is being redrawn every few milliseconds. So all this is doing is saying every time this is repainted, we want to draw something onto it. So it allows us to also add our own stuff. So what we're going to do inside here is, first of all, let's just make a rectangle, because why not? I'm just going to stop the script because it's kind of useless at this point. So let's draw a rectangle. So to draw a rectangle, you probably think that it's something like graphics.draw a rectangle, which looks like it would be correct. However, that isn't correct, and I'll tell you why in a second. First thing we need to do though is convert our graphics to make sure it's 2D graphics. So what we're going to do is just type graphics 2D, let's call it G, equals new. No, we don't need new actually, do we? No, we're just going to cast graphics 2D. So we're going to cast something to graphics 2D so it can be stored here. And we're going to cast our normal graphics, which is the one that was passed in by the parameter, so graphics. So that's all we have to do to get our 2D graphics. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say G dot, and then instead of draw a rectangle, we're actually going to type fill rectangle. And then you'll see here that it's X, Y, width, and height. So X and Y, I'm going to set them as 0, 0, which is saying that it's going to be at the very top left. So 0, 0, and then the width I will set to, let's say 150, and then the height, let's say 100, not 800, 100. Okay, so that's our rectangle drawn, but it doesn't know what colour to draw it, so we also need to set the colour. So g.setColor, new colour, I'm going to make it black. So now this is just RGBA values, it should say here somewhere, yeah, so RGBA, so new colour, red 0, green 0, blue 0, and then we want our alpha to be about 180, I suppose. Now these are all 255, so the maximum you can put here is 255, and a lot of people sometimes think that the maximum for this is 1, but it's supposed to be an integer, not a float or double. So 0.5, for example, does not work. It, as normal with the others, 255 is the maximum. We're going to set it to 180 so it's slightly transparent. So that's our rectangle drawn. Now let's draw a border around this, and we're going to set the border to white. So g.setColor, new color 255, 255, 255. We don't need any transparency on that. so it's just RGB. So that's completely white. As you can see here, we can actually select colors. I didn't know that. That's cool. And then we're going to draw the border. Now the border is what I mentioned before. So it's g.drawRect. So this will draw the rectangle, but it won't fill it. That's how you fill it there. And it's going to be exactly the same as this rectangle, but because we've drawn it afterwards, it's going to be on top of it, so it will look like a border. So 0, 0, 150, 100. Now if we compile this and run it in game, you should see a black rectangle with a white border. So let's just start it. As you can see, there's our little cool thing. So now we need to add some text to that. So we're going to keep it as white, because we're just going to use white text, and then we're going to do g.draw, and let's see what options we've got. So we've got draw image, no, draw a string. That's obviously what we want. So now the parameters for this are the string to draw, first of all. So let's do the title, so quick minor, and then x and y. So let's draw hours at 2020 and just see where that actually shows up. So compile, script, play, quick minor. So it's about there. I'm happy with that. And now we're going to draw some other stuff, such as how long it's been running and the EXP gain. So to show how long it's been running, we can set a long millis. So this is long milliseconds. That's how many milliseconds the script has been ran for. So we can do this dot get total runtime, and that's how long I believe that's how long the poll, because we implemented we extended poll script here. I believe that's from that, so that's how we're allowed to get that. And now to turn this into actual time, what we can do is long second equals milliseconds divided by 1,000, so that makes it into seconds, and then we do this 60. Now if you don't understand this, basically what it's saying is divide the seconds into 60, which will give you the amount of minutes, but then what this percentage symbol does is it says instead of giving me that answer, give me the remainder. So it's going to divide it into minutes, and then instead of giving you the minutes, it'll give you whatever's left over, which will be the seconds. And then that's exactly the same for long minutes equals, it's going to be milliseconds divided by 1,000 times 60, because this time we're getting the minutes and not the seconds. And then again it's just going to be that 60 to get the remainder, and then we're going to need hours. So long hours equals, this one's going to be slightly different but same logic. So milliseconds divided by 1,000 times 60 times 60, so get the hours, and then you do this and divide it by 24, because there's obviously 24. So that's all we have to do for that. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And then so now we're going to draw that to the screen. So this is, again, it's slightly different to this, but it's still super easy. So g.drawString, and then we're going to say it's been running for, and now we need to add our time that's been running, but we can't just do hours plus minutes plus seconds and then the X and Y, of course. Apparently we can. I'm pretty sure we need to format this. I'm not sure how that's going to show up. I will show you guys because I'm kind of curious. So if we run this when it starts, Yeah, so it kind of works, but we want to format it so that we have like a colon between them, and perhaps we force it to be 2 digits so we don't end up with like 10 minutes colon 1 for 1 second, which is kind of confusing because 0, it should be 0 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to format this. So instead of plus 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 or whatever, we're going to do plus string.format, and then here we're going to put in the format we want. So it's going to be this. So that says it's going to be 2, followed by, it says it's going to be a 2-digit decimal, and then it's going to be followed by a colon, and then it's going to be another 2-digit decimal, followed by a colon, followed by a final 2-digit decimal. And then we need to put in the parameters to replace these. So the first parameter is of course going to be our hours, second one is of course going to be our minutes, and then the final one is going to be our seconds. Now you'll see that basically 20 here, 20 here, that just means it's 20 across, and then you'll see 40 and 20, that means the first one is 20 down, second one is 40 down. So that's how long it's been running. And then finally I said we're going to add how much XP gained per hour, for example. So we're going to say, the first thing we need to do actually is if we go to our start here, we can actually just type, actually we need to initialize it, so we need to declare it. So int start exp equals 0. So it's going to start on 0, I suppose. And then at the bottom of here, because there's no point doing it at the start because it might still stop, as you can see here, or something might fail. So the very last thing you want to do, just because why not, start exp equals ctx.skills dot, and then let's have a look what we got. So experience at, I believe experience at will give you the experience at a certain level, whereas experience will give you your current experience. And then here what we want to do is we want to type in the skill. So we can't just type mining, for example, and we can't type mining like that either, because it's expecting an integer. So we could type 1 if we knew that mining was 1, but we don't really know that, and there's no point learning which ones are which, because RSBot actually gives us some constants. So let's import the RT4 constants like that, and then we just type dot, and then we'll be showing all the skills and stuff. So skills mining, that's all we need. So that gives us the current exp at when the script is started, so that'll go into there. If they start logged out, that's going to give us some errors, but let's just hope they don't do that. If they do, it's their loss, whatever. And then we need to work out how much EXP has been gained. So what we can do now is to go to, what we can say is basically, I suppose, int exp gained equals so what we're going to want to do again is basically just this. Let's copy and paste this. So that's how much EXP has been, that's the current EXP, and then we want to take away the start EXP. So that's how much EXP has been gained. So now what we want to do now is we want to draw this onto the screen. So g.draw string as usual, EXP per hour plus, by the way, this plus here, that's just a concatenator, so that basically says this whole thing here, that's still only one parameter, and it's basically concatenating this first string with this string to make it one string. So it basically adds it together. In other languages you'll see different types of concatenators. Sometimes you'll see it like that. Sometimes you'll see like that, stuff like that. It's really not important, but in Java it is a plus sign. So all we have to do now is exp an hour, exp per hour equals exp gained. And where do we want to draw it? We want to draw it at 2060, so another 20 down. Now, this is our exp gained, and it's not per hour. So to do that, what we need to do is just this. So first of all, we need to do exp gained times the amount of hours it's been ran divided by, actually I'll just type it and then I'll explain it. So 3.6 million D. Now that's how many seconds or how many milliseconds are in 1 hour, and we're going to divide that by our milliseconds. So what that'll do is, say you've run for 2 hours, this will have the value of 7.2 million. So if you divide this by 7.2 million, you get 0.5. So 2 hours therefore equals 0.5. So if you times our exp gained by 0.5, that'll effectively halve it, giving you the hourly rate. I hope that does make sense to you guys. And then you're gonna, because this is, it might not be an integer, so we're just gonna cast it to an integer. And then, but what this will also do, this cast here, that will only cast this, and then it'll do the sum, and that's where it might not return as an integer. So we need to make sure that cast is applied to the entire thing, so like this. So we just add brackets around that entire thing, and that's saying cast, it's saying do this and then cast it. I believe that's everything. So if I go code, no, not code, if I go right click compile, don't need to be logged in for this, then go to quick mining. Oh, I logged out. Yeah, let me log in to show you. So if I go quick mining, XP an hour is broken. Give me 2 seconds while I figure that out. Okay, never mind, I figured it out. Basically, until you actually start doing something in game, it just gives you crazy values. So it does work as intended. Once we actually click, for example, bank, then it will start doing it, and it will be 0, and that will actually give us the correct value. One thing I did notice before was, as like now, our stamina is pretty high, so we should be running. So I'm just going to show you guys how to actually turn run on effectively, I suppose. It's very simple. I'm just going to make sure I've got it correct in my head before I show you guys, because this is quite a long video. I don't want to ruin it at the last second. So I'm just going to pause the video for 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, so I just checked and confirmed that what I did was correct. So all we have to do is I'm just going to run up here to make sure that it can run back for my example. So inside our walk class, what we're going to say is if ctx, I actually looked up the documentation, by the way, just to show you. So running will tell you if you're running or not, and then this one, running passed with a boolean, will set it to whatever state. So if you said running true, that will turn running on if you're not already running. And then another thing here that we can see is energy level. So that's the energy that we've got. So we probably don't want to run if our energy is too low. So what we're going to say is if ctx dot movement, because this was in the movement class movement. So if ctx dot movement dot energy level is greater than, let's say, sorry, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Someone's at the door again. So what we're going to say is if our energy level is greater than 45, then ctx.movement dot does it as running true. So actually what we're going to do here is say if our if we're not already running. So ctx dot movement dot running. So if we're not running and that. Now if we use two of these ampersands, what that says is it won't even evaluate this if this isn't true first anyway. So it just saves us a bit of time. And that should work fine. I'm just going to compile that and test it for you guys. So I believe that's actually finished for today. What I would recommend is, yeah, so see it turned run on. So what I would recommend also is don't just hard code this. Make it, I mean, worst case you could do something like random dot next int and then 35, 55, something like that, you know, just to make it a bit more random. I mean, it probably isn't going to do anything, but peace of mind, you know. So for the next video I'm kind of thinking about making, see, my fletching script at the moment is kind of broken and it's not coded well at all, so I'm kind of thinking about making a little series on making a fletching script, and that'll be like the one I actually release. But again, I'm not going to touch on any anti-pattern or anything like that in my videos because one, it's not a good idea to release your anti-pattern techniques that publicly, and also as I say, everyone has different opinions. Find out what you believe is to be the best. Research it, perhaps do what you want with that, and then find ways to implement that yourself. So I mean, thanks for watching again. I hope, I mean, with everything we've learned so far, you should be able to make a pretty decent script. I mean, we haven't touched on widgets yet, but if I do a fletching script, then that will cover widgets. But I mean, you could make this into a fishing script, a woodcutting script, or anything like that. And I believe I might actually make another video on this where I will show you how to let the user select different rocks and different locations, but I'm not sure about that yet. So again, thanks for watching. Hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next video.